Case number 22SC183572.
Yes, ma'am. I take full responsibility for, my crimes or my charges. I want to say sorry to my family, my mom. My mom got 11 kids. I can't say all their names, my managers, my kids that's not here. Really everybody that got something to do with this situation, I want to say sorry for just having so much time invested into this, and I am a smart guy, I am a good guy, and I really got a good heart, I find myself in a lot of stuff because I was just nice or cool, and I understand that you can't be that way when you reach a certain height because it could end bad, and it don't really have to have nothing to do with you, but it could end bad and it could, fall on you. And I know the choice is yours, it's up to you, and I hope that you allow me to go home today and just trust in me to just do the right thing and never see you again unless it's at a bar in the future or something. Just out of this type of situation, I promise you I won't ever be in this type of situation again. I'm going away. I've learned from my mistakes. I come from nothing and I've made something and I didn't take full advantage of it. I'm sorry. Through these last 2.5 years of my life, you are really, truly, honestly, the best thing that has happened to me because you made everything fair for me and everybody involved on both sides, I'm sorry to the sheriff, everybody for just having to put extra time in. I know y'all got paid more money, but I'm sorry for y'all having to put this extra time in to be away from y'all family, and I just hope that you find it in your heart to allow me to go home and be with my family and just do better as a person. I know what I bring to the table. I know what I am. I know the heights I've reached. I know the impact I got on people, period, in the community, all people. I learned that late, these past 2 or 3 years of my life, I kind of learned that late, and maybe it was because I was, probably on drugs or anything, I don't know, but I have came to my senses and I understand what I mean to this world, but I am a good guy, I don't mind doing stuff like free shows, and I always did that, I did free shows and gave it to single parents, millions of dollars, I made $1.8 million on a free show, and I gave it all to single parent charity, and I did 2 or 3 shows that made $700,000 a piece, and I gave it to the breast cancer organization. I do things, I put millions of dollars back into my community for real. I really did. I did more than anybody ever did from my side, but I understand, rap lyrics. I understand how it could be twisted. I understand what it could do to the mind of people. I understand all that, and I promise you I'm 100% changing that. It's just, I'm older, I'm grown now, and it's just I'm smarter. It's more things to rap about. I've experienced a lot of good things. I experienced more bad things, but I experienced a lot of good things too. And anyway, I can go forever.
This is the YSL RICO case, where rapper Young Thug stood in court facing serious gang and racketeering charges.
Walking us through the decision to make a plea and just how today ended up going and transpiring.
Well, this was excruciating because hopefully, in our collective opinion, Jeffrey would have been found not guilty of everything. So this is very painful. But that's another 3 months or so in custody. And he wants to go home to his family. And negotiations totally broke down with the district attorney's office. Horribly broke down. And at that point, we believe that justice would be found with the honorable court. And Jeffrey just wanted to go home. how agonizing it is to know that we've spent a year trying a case where the prosecutors have put on lies, knowing lies, hiding evidence, is insane in 2024 in the United States of America. And the only reason that this got revealed is because of you people. You people brought the truth to the community, because nobody knows this. This is not the only courtroom it's happening in, and I just want to thank all of you. I especially want to thank Jeffrey for letting me represent him. I think he's a wonderful person who does wonderful things and will continue to do things even greater. I cannot express to you how Shaquille Kokomo, how Trisha Renard, how Haley, how my wife Colette, how Bram, how countless people, but especially Miss Courtney Edwards, has worked without sleep for 3 years representing Jeffrey and helping him. I will never be able to stand with anyone more ethical, honest, hardworking, insightful, intelligent, and kind than the Honorable Keith Adams. The gentleman to my left is the best lawyer in the country.
Mr. Shields, do you think prosecutors negotiated in good faith at all during any of these negotiations?
Why don't you let me take this one? Let me answer that. The short answer is no. This is a case that possibly could have been resolved if folks were reasonable. But we did not believe that we could enter into good faith negotiations with people who wanted a case resolved in a manner simply to save face. And Jeffrey Williams was not going to say things that they wrote for him, that they wanted him to say, that was their theory when it wasn't true. And so, good faith, no. I don't believe we were ever really negotiating in good faith. And you've been here the past year that this case has been on trial. You've seen the numerous motions for mistrial. You've seen the behavior of the state. You've seen the dishonesty. You've seen everything being hidden. You've seen things come out in court, in front of you. And so you know what kind of prosecution we were dealing with, and that's okay. You know, Mr. Steele and I have fought through this the past 2.5 years. And as he said, we ultimately decided we were going to put our faith in the court as opposed to the folks on the other side of the aisle. And you know, the best thing out of all of this is that Jeffrey Williams, in a very short period of time, will be home. And that's all we've wanted from May 9th, when they went and picked him up and have held him in jail without a bond for the past 2.5 years. He'll be home shortly.
Keith and Brian, this either one of you can answer. I have 2 questions for you. First off, you go into a blind, really, you don't know, right? There's nothing for sure. What was your emotions like when you guys went into that? I would imagine the conversation, can you kind of take us into the room before you went out into court, what the conversations were back and forth? Obviously, I know there's attorney-client privilege, but it's a big decision.
Well, I didn't want to give up the jury trial, but that was a decision made, and once that decision was made, we were just thankful that there are people like the Honorable Judge Whitaker who understands what a trial is like and what it should be like. And I cannot thank the Honorable Court for being here and coming in. She is not our first judge, but she's the first time we received justice.
Mr. Adams, this is your second high-profile RICO case here in Fulton County. Do you think that maybe the prosecutor's office is abusing that statute? And what are your opinions of RICO generally?
I have, for the 30-some-odd years that I've practiced law, always believed that if you, as a prosecutor, think that someone has committed a crime, you charge them with the crime, you put it in front of a jury, and then you do it fairly and let the chips fall where they may. The courtroom is not the place to get adventurous, to get inventive, to think, well, we don't have evidence on him for any of these incidents, but maybe, if just maybe, we tie him up in a RICO and put him with people who may have committed crimes, we can get him that way. That's an abuse. And so, yes, for some strange reason, the Fulton County DA's office seems to be in love with RICO. And my honest opinion is that they're in love with it because it makes it easier for them to try and convict people that they otherwise could not convict. And that's what was happening here. We're fighting a mountain, reams of evidence, most of which didn't have anything to do with us. And so is it an abuse? I think it is. There are better ways to, and I used to be a prosecutor, right? And I can tell you that there are better ways to prosecute cases than the way this case was prosecuted.
You guys obviously rejected initially what the state was going to offer. Is there some details you can give us? Because it sounds like from what you guys decided in court, I mean, it's still pretty stringent. There's a lot of different details, but what was the state asking for that you guys rejected?
I'm not going to get into plea negotiations because they are privileged under statute, but it was outrageous. They would let him out of custody, but they would have a tether around him so tight that it's unconscionable.
And how are y'all feeling about what the sentencing is, especially with not being able to be in Metro Atlanta except for specific parameters, and how is Mr. Williams feeling about that decision?
You know, we're okay with the sentence. There comes a time in any case, if a person is sentenced, that we're out of the courtroom, and now what happens to that person is entirely up to them. Jeffrey Williams is a fantastically talented man. He is a great person. He's become a great friend over the course of the last couple of years. And he has the ability, the incentive to go forth and do everything he needs to do to put this behind him. And we're confident that he will. One of the questions you asked a little earlier was, what was that feeling like, stepping into a courtroom to do what's called a blind plea, not knowing what's going to happen? You know, it's a scary feeling for all involved. There's probably no feeling quite like that other than sitting in a courtroom waiting for a jury to come out and tell you what your fate is. But we walked in there knowing that we were in front of a fair tribunal and being comfortable that the right thing was going to happen, and the right thing did.
What do you think about your client just serving as a role model? Obviously, as part of the agreement, he's going to be participating in the community, doing events, things like that. Obviously, he has a huge reach for what he does for a living.
I've known Jeffrey Williams. I've defended him for over a decade. I have been with him where we go to young children, children in need, children who are going down the wrong way. And he tells exactly what he's going to continue to say. He tells everybody, this is not a good life. We have to stop the generational disaster that is plaguing the community. And although
rap music and the rap industry is, I mean, honestly, it sounds like a modern day version of kind of WWE wrestling that used to be on television, where people would just get up and posture and act like they hated each other. And it may be that that's a lot of what is going on in the music industry with rap. But whether it is fake or not, it has tremendous impact on kids and young people who think, this is cool, this is what I want to do. Look at him, he's a millionaire. I can do that by being, you know, a gangster in the streets. And that's not true. What you're likely to have happen to you if you're a gangster in the streets is you get shot, you get killed, or you get thrown in prison. And those are, you know, by far the most likely outcomes. And, you know, you've been in here watching the trial, and you've seen the pictures of Mr. Ryan posing with a gun as big as he is at 15 years old and going out and shooting and killing another teenager. And that's what gangs do, and that's unfortunately a lot of what rap music does. And if you are a modern day John Lennon, you know, I mean, he might have rapped too in this day and age. I don't know, but I know you're talented, and even if you choose to continue to rap, you need to try to use your influence to let kids know that that is not the way to go. and that there are ways out of poverty besides hooking up with the powerful guy at the end of the street selling drugs. And, you know, I know that happens for protection sometimes, but a much better way would be getting an education and setting, you know, hanging around with people who set a good example. And you be one of those people that sets a good example. I mean, all right, so that's my high horse on that. I could also go on. But I want you to try to be more of the solution and less of the problem. All right? All right, so it is not lost on the court that the state, had they been able to come to agreement on certain special conditions, was willing to entirely dismiss the RICO count, was willing to entirely dismiss one of the gang counts, and was willing to entirely dismiss this, you know, machine gun count. Was willing to give a sentence that permitted Mr. Williams to walk out of the door today, and therefore does not seem to be particularly worried that Mr. Williams, if on the streets, would be a danger to society. I'm taking that into consideration in crafting my sentence. And in permitting a NOLO plea to the RICO count in one of the two gang counts, I would not be permitting the NOLO to the one if you were not pleading guilty to at least one of them. But you are, and y'all admit a factual basis for the counts that you are pleading guilty to. I find there to be a factual basis for those counts, and for the remaining counts with which you are charged. I am going to impose a sentence, and I've taken a little bit of the suggested special conditions from the defense and a little bit of the special conditions suggested by the prosecution. On count one, the court sentence is 20 years to serve 5.
Right now I'm successful, I'm a product, but every one of you can get out, and he always stresses education. Jeffrey Williams is a great person, a great role model, and he will do even better now, hopefully, if you allow him and his words to get out. As far as how Jeffrey's feeling now, he knows my feelings, which I'm not going to reveal for attorney-client privilege, but this is not the same as a not guilty verdict. That should have been rang. But nobody here wakes up every day on a concrete floor that they're calling his bed, gets up at 4:15, gets shackled at his feet, his waist, and his hands, comes to the Fulton County Courthouse to be on concrete, eating out of a bag. Doritos is his meal of choice. And then coming to a courtroom and sit there with a leg chain on him every single day and hear lie after lie. So for Jeffrey go home today and not have another 90 days or 120 days of it, he is very happy, thankful to the honorable court. So to answer your question, this was not what I wanted. I don't believe that it is just, but I believe that under these circumstances, it is justice for Jeffrey Williams, and he is delighted, as are we, and thankful.
Can I ask you, you were standing right next to him as he was addressing the judge, what seemed like a very sincere apology to her, or apology to the court and what happened, what has gone on. How did you feel standing next to him, knowing him for the last decade as an attorney for him, about what he was saying and what he was telling the judge?
Jeffrey Williams is being truthful. That is his heartfelt feelings. He feels so bad for the loss of life, and he feels bad that people are taking his music or his social postings and making it into violence. That is all promotion. That is not a symbol of go hurt somebody. So I hope I've answered your question directly, but how I felt, I've heard that from Jeffrey over and over again.
You called out a lot of challenges in this trial based on the prosecution's points. Do you have any message to, the co-counsel that for now is still on trial, or what's left of this?
Oh my God, they are phenomenal lawyers, and I'm confident if you keep going, which I assume you will see some great lawyering. They don't need my help.
And the truth is, they've been there with us for the past 2.5 years. They're aware of what they're up against. They are totally capable of handling it. And I presume we'll step in from time to time because, in this fight in the past 2.5 years, we've been together. So we needed something, they've been there to assist. And if they need something, we're happy to step right back in and assist. But they're great lawyers. Max Shard, Doug Weinstein, those gentlemen are in great hands. They'll be fine.
I will say this, I think it is wrong, and it needs to be fixed, that an innocent man is arrested on May 9th of 2022, is denied bond, and has to plead guilty and nolo to get freedom after 2.5 years in custody. That should not happen. Nobody should be on trial. Jurors, think about what they're going through. Nobody should be on trial like this. And if Mr. Williams didn't have the resources, this never happens well for anybody. So I think it's an abuse to answer the AJC's question. I think it's an abuse of the statute of RICO to do this to people.
Is it fair to say you don't believe justice was served today?
I believe that Mr. Williams is home, and I'm delighted. Justice would have been served on May 8th of 2022 if the grand jury no-billed his indictment. That would have been just. And it's wrong to be under investigation. He's been under investigation for 15 years. 15 years by task force of federal government and local government. Think about that. Think about your children doing that. And that's okay. If it's okay with you all, then we should really start moving to another country. I want to thank everybody so much for everything you do. I cannot thank you all, because without you guys, this just keeps rolling in injustice. It's got to end. The criminal justice system, the presumption of innocence, the Brady rules, the ethical rules, they have to survive. Otherwise, we all are victims of this. Anyone can sit in that seat next to Keith Adams. Thank you all so much.
And no one sees it unless you guys do what you do. But I tell you what, there is a whole world of people out there who have watched this trial over the course of the past 2.5 years. The past year that we've actually been in the courtroom trying the case, who are much more educated to how things work, and unfortunately, sometimes how things don't work. Thank you guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Right. Chef Steele.